welcome to our podcast for today. I'm Wendy.
I'm Nicola.
And together we are Corporate Conundrums. Different logo today because we've moved our set around slightly because we have a third party with us. We would like to welcome Stephen Kerr.
Thank you. It's absolutely tremendous to be with you.
Morning to you.
Yes, indeed.
So, Nicola, we've got some questions we're going to discuss this morning. So we've taken a slightly different approach to our spotlight session today. Rather than having callers coming in, we've got 3 questions that we feel might be of value for you to hear our discussion and our thought process around about. So we are going to discuss 3 topics. The first one being how politics work in business. And the second one is...
It's around sales and really how are we training our workforce to enable us in a critical skill that all businesses need.
And the third one, I think we're going to talk about collaboration. So how strength can be gained by collaborating with a number of different parties, especially in Scotland when we've got so many SMEs around.
So our listeners have heard plenty about Wendy and myself and our business background, but Stephen, you didn't always start in politics.
No, I was elected Stirling's Member of Parliament only in 2017. Before that, I had more than 30 years in business, mainly with Kimberly-Clark, in the professional side of Kimberly-Clark. Before I became a Member of Parliament, I was the Operations Director for our sales in Europe, Middle East and Africa. And before that, I was the General Manager for Kimberly-Clark Professional in the UK, Ireland, Benelux, Nordic and France. So I had a fantastic career with Kimberly-Clark. It's a fantastic organisation full of wonderful people.
And I assume in your day-to-day role, you're coming into contact with business all times. Are you needing to draw on that experience?
Yeah, well, very fortunately, just after I was elected as Stirling's MP, I was elected to the Business Select Committee of the House of Commons.
Oh, great.
So I'm one of about a dozen members of Parliament who scrutinise the work of the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. So I regularly have had opportunity to call on my experience, my real life experience in business, which I can tell you is a real asset as a politician, to be able to have had a foot in the real world and to be able to relate to the issues that are brought before the committee, before Parliament, from the context of what life in business is really like, rather than the theoretical stuff that sometimes people will engage in when it comes to political discussions, policy discussions.
Well, it sounds like you've seen our questions already, because it seems like a really good lead-in perhaps to our first topic.
Indeed, of where politics or how politics influence business, where there's a dynamic between the two.
Yeah.
So we thought, from my perspective of being in business, I really have no context with politics and business. And I would love to have some more understanding of how politics can actually benefit business in the real world.
Well, yeah, I mean, I mentioned the real world, having a foot in the real world. I mean, politics shapes that real world. The fact is that politicians can either, through their activities, through their decisions, through the legislation that goes through Parliament, whether it's in London or whether it's in Edinburgh, they can either enhance the overall environment in which businesses operate, or they can have the opposite effect. And I think that's why it's so important that businesses are aware of the overall environment in which their business is operating.
I mean, I think the only context I see that relating to business in reality is economically. What sort of, apart from economically, are there, I don't know how you feel in your business, but I certainly never think of the reasoning behind politics in my business apart from based on monetary sides of my business.
Well, the whole legislative framework. I mean, so how, the regulation. I mean, regulation is a big issue.
Yeah.
I mean, so politicians really are in the business of regulating and creating law. It's not just about economics. It's about every aspect of our lives, really. And we are a very well-regulated country. When I say the word well, I mean there's a lot of it.
Yes.
And I think you have to be extremely aware of what that regulation is in business. You have to stay within the regulation. And when that regulation is not working to your advantage in business, when you can see that the regulation has become a barrier to your business, that's when you need to talk to politicians, especially. You need to make your voice heard. I think one of the things I feel very passionately about having come from a business background, is that business people, particularly small and medium-sized business people, they need to be organised to make their voices heard. They need to have that contact with
I want
politicians.
to interrupt you there and ask a question that I'm sure a few of you out there would also like to ask. Regulation. So regulation in small business can actually be more of a barrier than a help sometimes. I mean, I've certainly found in my period of time, you know, I was down in Westminster for a while as well, the regulations that started to appear, there was more and more and more red tape for businesses, especially small businesses, to have to leap through.
Absolutely.
So where's the stop point for where regulation is helpful and where it's a hindrance?
Well, the best people to be able to advise on where regulation is helpful, where it's producing the desired outcome, and where it's not, are the business people themselves.
Right.
And that brings me back to my thing I feel quite passionate about, which is that businesses need to make their voices heard. So in Stirling, for example, one of the things I'm really concerned about is the fact that small and medium-sized businesses' voices are heard in the context of the city deal, for example.
Yes.
But when it comes to specific industries, sectors, and the impact that politicians, parliaments, law can have, regulation can have in those businesses need to make their voices heard. I think one of the concerns I've got is that because politics seems like another world, and sometimes it does feel like another world, business owners, entrepreneurs are less inclined to engage with politicians. And I think it's very important that there is an engagement. Politicians need the education that entrepreneurs can bring them, the real world experiences that make a difference, that can really inform politicians about how they're going to see particular issues that come before Parliament.
Because Wendy, we've both been very involved in the Federation of Small Businesses. In fact, I don't know, Stephen, if you've heard, but Wendy had every business in the local area practicing some of her resilience and social skills recently at a Federation of Small Business event. And in the last few months, Federation of Small Businesses launched a new piece of research, didn't they, into the number of businesses within Scotland that are financed and then populated by people from different migrant backgrounds. So there's that lobbying is part of, I guess, what you're saying, of businesses really making their voices heard.
I think it's absolutely essential. I think it's very tempting when you look at the world of politics, especially at the moment, to see this, well, sometimes it looks like a bit of a mess, to be honest, and to say, I'm going to distance myself from that. I'm going to focus on my business. I'm going to stay in the parameters that I define for my business. But the fact is, all businesses are operating in the wider environment and of our society, of our economy, of our country. And it's never been more important for business people to make their voices heard.
I don't think that's happening as much as it should happen.
I don't either.
Yeah, I think there needs to be some sort of forum or some way in which businesses can become more heard.
Yes.
And they believe that what they're saying is actually being taken into account and something's being done with it. And I think there's a mismatch there really at the moment, especially for SMEs.
Yeah.
You know, the big boys have a lot of say. I don't know, you've worked with a lot of the larger organizations, Nicola. How have they been more in the sway of how they might move politics to, or be involved with politics to help them, rather than the SMEs, like you're in an SME now?
I would say that some clients have very active lobbying because they want to secure new premises and therefore they want new tax deals to support that. And I think we even see that on a smaller scale in local economies, don't we, where the bigger employers of the area will feel more emboldened to be able to approach the councils with their proposals, to place with demands, even when it comes to rates or perhaps transport links or something like that that they want. And as an individual employer, when you've maybe only got one or two members of staff, it's quite a big thing to turn up and say, knock on the door of the council and say, we'd like something, please.
Yes.
I don't think you feel your voice is being heard in the same way as the bigger boys.
And I wonder if there's the mechanism, because I guess if we're a member of an organisation such as Federation of Small Businesses, we then take our voice to that third party, who then is an intermediary in some ways to politics.
There's a part for that. But what I would say to all of your viewers and listeners is you should never underestimate your impact as a small business in a locality. I mean, one of the things I love doing as Stirling's Member of Parliament is receiving invitations to go and visit businesses. to sit down and listen. I mean, I know that that's a concern people have. And it's not just business people. Are politicians listening to their electorate?
Yes.
And do they take the time to take on board
what's
alternative points of view, points of view that may run across what they believe to be the case? But really good members of parliament, I believe, are led by evidence. And the most important evidence is the testimony of the people that they have in their constituency who know what they're talking about. Let's face it, to be a successful member of parliament, I don't think it's possible to be an expert in all of the areas that you really need to be an expert in. To become really effective, you need to listen to the experts. So what I would say is, invite your member of parliament, invite your local council, invite your MSP.
So there's an open invite to you all to invite Stephen to ask him or help you with any direction that you might feel is salient for your growth. Stephen's inviting you to get in touch.
If you're a business in Stirling constituency, I absolutely want to come and visit you and listen to what it is that is happening in your business, the challenges that you're facing, because that educates me in the context of the things that I'm going to do in Parliament to advocate for business interests in Stirling. And I try to do that because I totally believe that the wellspring of our country's wealth is the entrepreneurial genius of people who set up businesses, who have ideas, who provide products and services, who then employ people, who then pay taxes, who then make it possible for us to have the public services that we all need and value. Money does not grow on a tree, despite what people may be saying currently. It doesn't grow on a tree. It needs to be generated.
We'll not go down that avenue. It's okay.
Don't turn off. But that is the reality of the importance of the voice of business. To, I think, not just to me as a member of Parliament, but to all members of Parliament, and to all MSPs and to all councillors. So I know it's going to take time out of what will be already a very heavy and committed day, but just to take 15 minutes to get your member of Parliament and sit him down, show him around your business, tell him or her what it is that really matters to you as a business, it can make a big difference.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm sure many of you out there have never even thought of entertaining that. But I think that tends to bridge the gap that we've been talking about of how actually politics in the real world can affect your business. If you have that situation where you invite your MP in and you have a discussion, and the MP gets to know your real needs and how you can grow the business and what you want, what direction or help you feel lobbying and etc. can help.
Well, one of the things that I believe in is that as a member of Parliament for Stirling, I have a responsibility to promote, to sell Stirling and its businesses to a wider audience. So whenever I can, I have very deliberately, and I will confess to this live on this in this programme, I have taken the opportunity to promote Stirling's businesses. There are opportunities in Parliament every week in different ways to highlight local businesses, businesses that win awards, businesses that are doing particularly well.
There was one recently, the salmon in Balfron. Remember, did you read about the salmon in Balfron? No?
Yeah. There's salmon in Balfron?
I'm not sure. I just remember seeing the context of salmon in Balfron.
The Balfron, absolutely. Well, aquaculture, a very important part. Now, when you think about Stirling, you don't think automatically that aquaculture is going to be a big part of Stirling's economy, but it is. In fact, the city deal brings about the creation of an institute for aquaculture at Stirling University.
What's aquaculture?
Aquaculture is fish farming.
Yes, okay.
Of all different sorts.
Yeah.
And Stirling University, though, has been a leader in that
for many years. From when I was a student at Stirling University, but what the city deal does now is it's going to create the facilities to give this world-class institute the buildings, the research facilities that it needs. And this is a huge, there is the value of the salmon business, if you like, to Scotland is huge, as much as the entire value of the catch of the fishing industry in this country.
That's huge.
It's £1 billion a year, and Stirling is at the very epicenter of this.
Exciting.
And it is very exciting. But there are many other businesses in Stirling that are doing exceptional things, and I do try to advocate for them in Parliament, give them the opportunity to be mentioned in Hansard.
My old haunt.
Yeah, you know all about Hansard. And it can make a difference. I mean, Fallen Brewery in Stirling, we had a week in Strangers Bar where they were the beer of the week. And I corralled as many MPs from all parties as I could down to the bar of Strangers. Not a difficult thing to do to get them to go to the bar of Strangers, as again you will remember well. I
don't remember the invite. Did you get the invite?
And these MPs all were enjoying the product of that particular business and things like that. Yeah. I think MPs all feel that very passionately. They're there to stand up for their businesses.
Good to hear. So is there anything else you want to add, Nicola, or have we...
Well, I guess what we want to say is even if you don't live in Stirling, it's still worth doing.
Yes, whoever your MP may be. Yes.
Or... So it's becoming the Stirling show here. I do apologise.
But I think that what we have seen is the calls that we've had, which have come in from all across the country, really, and people from all sorts of different nationalities and backgrounds. But the thing that's really driven behind all of them is sales.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't matter what business you're in,
absolutely.
You need to be able to sell, either you personally or somebody within your organisation.
Yeah.
But it seems to have been a real challenging area.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think selling is something that is quite a unique skill. And I know that, Stephen, you've got some insights on that. You've got a bit of a passion about selling. So it'd be quite nice to discuss. Well, we've actually written a question. I'll just read it because I can't remember it off by heart. But what can be done to create a pool of talented salespeople within the Scottish recruitment pool? Or is nature more important than nurture? So that's I quite like that. That was Nicola put that together. And I think the idea of nature and nurture is key to your ability to being able to sell. But what are your thoughts?
Well, when I graduated from Stirling University in 1986 with a business degree.
You don't look that old.
I'm ancient. If you cut through here, the number of rings is very impressive. I went to Stirling to study marketing.
Right.
Marketing was the in word, and it still is. But I spent my entire life really involved with sales and marketing, but really sales.
So if you define the two, what's the obvious difference, if you like?
Well, sales is a part of the total marketing mix of different things that are involved in marketing, whether it's advertising or research, whatever. But the actual sales is where you take the product or the service and you're presenting it to people who you see as prospective customers. It's the go-to market,
right?
In a very physical action sort of a way.
Because for me, I kind of think of marketing as the selling the brand, and sales is about closing the sales, and taking all that kind of pitch, whether that's been online or face to face. It's an interesting blend, isn't it? I guess what we do know is if you do a marketing degree, business studies and management science at Stirling University, which did have marketing in it. When you do a marketing degree, it's never about closing the sale. If you do if you study selling, it's all about closing. So there's something.
When I was at university a long time ago, admittedly, there was a very small element of the total business degree. I think there was maybe one afternoon I can remember where there was a talk about somebody came in, a visiting professor came in who had built a business and talked excessively about sales.
Right.
But the point is that was the only part of the degree program. So one of the concerns I've got then is that people go to university, end up in sales, but as almost as a default. It's not by design. I mean, very few people, sadly, are going to university to get degrees and are saying to themselves, I'm going to leave with a qualification and I'm going to use that to become a key account manager. I'm going to become a sales director. And it's not really what you get people saying. And that is a huge, to me, that is a missed opportunity for us as a country.
So would you suggest then that there's almost a specific degree that is worked around sales in its entirety?
I'll tell you how strongly I feel about the importance of having a degree in sales. And that is that when I was elected, I discovered there's all these all-party parliamentary groups There's hundreds of them, but there wasn't one on enhancing professional sales.
Right. Okay.
So what I did as a new member of Parliament is I got together with colleagues again across all the parties, and about 60 of them signed up to this all-party parliamentary group for enhancing professional sales. And we began an inquiry into how can we improve sales capabilities as a means of enhancing the productivity of small and medium-sized businesses. And we've had a very useful inquiry. We're about to actually publish a report based on what we discovered in terms of sales, professionalism, and SMEs. See, the bottom line is, I think, is that because sales isn't seen as aspirational, because people don't go to university with sales aspiration, it's not seen as an aspirational career, or people don't, you don't get people saying, I'm going to become a sales professional. It's because it's not seen as a profession currently in the same light as perhaps a marketing professional is, or certainly a lawyer, or a chartered accountant, or a chartered this or
they
that,
have more
or the next thing.
Kudos, if you like.
Kudos, So part of the objective of the all-party parliamentary group is to work with the Association for Professional Sales.
Okay.
And the idea of that association and the APPG is to elevate sales as a desired aspirational profession. And that means that there will be a professional body, professional qualifications, and when it becomes recognized as a profession with skills, with knowledge, with capabilities that are really, when we get to that point, we'll hit the bullseye, because then people will want to be salespeople.
Yeah. You mentioned in that question about, which would be interesting to tie that into what you just said, Stephen, about nature or nurture. What was in your head when you wrote that down with regard to sales? I'd be interested to hear.
Well, I started my career at Glaxo Wellcome and ended up being an account manager for retail pharmacies. And when we were in that role, we were all then invested in and sent on negotiating skills courses, sales courses, etc. But it was something that we then were put into. And the reason we got into the job was because we had a nature for it. It wasn't, we were then nurtured, but we had to indicate some level of capability before we were even in the job. And then we were supported. So there wasn't the pre-selling. And I'm also conscious that thinking of all the new businesses that we've had phoning into our calls, when they use we recommend often contacting a business gateway to access Scottish enterprise services, but none of that is really about sales. You can go on a social media marketing.
Can I just interrupt? Just on Scottish Enterprise, sorry, Nicola. We're in a business gateway venue today, and I just want to thank Ceteris in Alloa for allowing us to use this room, because it's been fantastic. It just reminded me with what you were saying, Nicola, so sorry to interrupt with your train of thought, but do carry on.
Thank you. Well, Ceteris, of course, are one of the many people that also run these courses.
Yes.
But we tend to find ourselves on quite similar, in fact, I know, Wendy, you actually run some of them.
Yeah.
We find ourselves on the same thing, but it's all marketing driven. Not all of the courses are, but if there's sales or marketing, it's a marketing driven course. And it does seem to be a dearth. And so I was wondering that when we find people in a sales role, it's often because they themselves demonstrate some type of ability, therefore they go for that type of job, rather than it being a career choice. It's more, I need a job, I am able to sell, I'll now go and sell.
But if there was a career choice and there was a university degree or a more succinct degree specifically for sales, it's more likely that people who have that nature are going to go down that avenue anyway. Well, you would hope that would be the case, although sometimes our education system doesn't necessarily lend itself to the right degree and the right career, which is a completely another debate altogether. But you would hope if there was a sales degree that it would encourage people with that sort of mindset, that nature, that they want to be in front of people.
It's really interesting, because having been even in financial services, that you can find some very successful salespeople in financial services, because they sit down and talk to you about your personal income or lack of, and then help sell you something to then spend your money on, and they tend to do, the good ones do very, very well at it. But I was found in my own business trying to hire salespeople. I was expecting to meet people like that who'd come in and wow me when you open the interview room door, and then, oh my goodness, I'd be sold to, and I'd have to hire them because they would just knock my socks off. But I didn't actually experience that. First of all, there was a lack of people applying, and then those that did turn up, really didn't have that oomph that you expect. I'm definitely an advocate now of this.
You see,
Yes.
you mentioned nature or nurture. So I am of the opinion that you take the average toddler, they are absolutely born salespeople. They are. They have an agenda. They want some things, and they're not afraid to ask. Can I have? And then they have the other great skill that children have. Why? Why is that? They have this innate questioning, which somehow or other we as adults, maybe unintentionally, rob them of.
Yes.
So actually, I would argue that most people start off as small people with a very strong sales instinct.
That's quite an interesting perspective.
So I think there is by nature, I think we are all programmed in that sort of a way. But you're absolutely right. What we need to do is build people's confidence. Sales is, like so many other professions, is a question of confidence. To stand up as a lawyer or a barrister, a solicitor, whatever, in front of a jury or in front of a judge, that takes confidence. It's about personal confidence. The baseline for sales professionalism is you have some confidence in your ability to string a sentence together and to do it in front of another person, to ask a good question, and the ability to listen. These are not things that are bestowed by nature as a gift. There's something that everybody can develop.
Yes, we can develop them, but then that becomes nurture. However, I would say...
But they're there to start with.
Yes, to a degree they are, but we still have, we're born with personalities, and some people have more of an innate personality because they're people, even as they grow past toddlership.
True.
They grow into
I accept that
scenario of just wanting to be in front of people. And there are others who
are more reserved.
Yes, due to their personality.
But let me tell you, some of the most successful salespeople that I have ever dealt with are people who are not out there in the footlights. They're very quiet, but very, their attention to detail, their willingness to take time to listen and understand, it's exceptional. And because of that, they become exceptional salespeople if they can ally that skill with the ability to ask the final question.
Yes.
Which is the closing question.
The close. Yes.
However that's done.
And that is a key skill. I know with myself, I'm not a closer. I find that a difficult thing because effectively I'm like yourself, Nicola, we're selling ourselves, and to close on selling yourself rather than a product or a service or something that's not physically yourself is much easier.
The other thing is that sales itself is evolving. It's not, when people think of sales, they think of the opening, the presentation and the close. It's not really like that anymore.
No, it's more about rapport building. And
it is.
Yes. And
it's about insights.
Yes.
It's about the
a feeling almost.
Yeah. A really successful salesperson. I always used to tell my salespeople that if you're a really successful salesperson, the customer would actually have paid for the privilege of you visiting them. Because they'll have gotten something out of the visit that was valuable. Now, salespeople should go with the view of adding value to what it is that their customer or prospective customer is doing. And so people who are studious, who take time to learn, who are sensible, they don't necessarily flash. Flash is almost anti-sales, I would say sometimes.
Yes, I
people
think
go,
no, he's trying to sell me something. She's trying to sell me something
I don't want. Whereas if it's consultative, if it's engaged, then the process is additive, and the person, the customer, thinks, crikey, I look forward to the next time that person comes and visits me, because they've always got something interesting to tell me about my own business. And that's the sales of particularly in this age where so much information is available now on the internet. I mean, at least 50%.
I wonder, Wendy, within your courses, you do a lot of resilience courses, and this is sounding to me like the fear of rejection. So we've gone from the toddlership thing where we're not fearing about being rejected. Our fear is about not being fed.
Yes.
So we ask for it because we know for our survival we must ask.
We need it.
And then there's something that happens over life that then takes that away, and we start becoming scared of rejection. And that could have happened for a number of reasons, maybe not passing an exam or not being asked out by somebody or whatever it might be. I wonder if actually I said that Business Gateway doesn't run courses on sales, but maybe we do. We just don't call it that. And maybe we need to be more upfront.
I think that's true. I think that's true. I mean, the change from toddler to adolescent to adult, there are a huge lot of psychological reasons behind what happens to a person in that period of time. Too much to go into just now. But I think what you're saying with regard to sales about it being a rapport building and a connection rather than a selling is very much along the lines of what I talk about when I'm doing communication or whatever other subject I might be working in. And it is personal growth. It's all about feeling comfortable in your own shoes in whatever environment you're in, and having a passion about what it is that you're wanting to offer to help this person. Rather than actually, thinking if I sell this, I make money, which in the olden days, I sell a car, I make a profit, a commission, which is a very different ethos. But I don't necessarily think that when you were at university, did you learn any specific personal growth types, rapport building stuff wrapped around the sales context?
No, not at all.
So I mean, I think there is room for that development of, personal understanding of how you come across to others, of how you listen, body language, all the sort of non-verbal stuff as well.
I think we've got to take sales to schools.
Yes.
And we've got to take sales career to schools. So I mean, the Association of Professional Sales, APS, have got a kind of a lesson in a box. For the teachers can use.
Is it being used now?
Yeah, it is being used now. Yeah.
In Scotland?
Not in Scotland yet that I'm aware of, but certainly down south it's being used.
And is it something that might be brought to Scotland?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd love to personally be involved in trying to advocate that this is looked at, because basically what it does, it illustrates the point we were discussing earlier, that we are constantly selling to each other through life. It's not what people might think is sales, but any transaction, any kind of relationship. Exactly.
You're selling yourself.
So it's just a very natural thing to do. And the question that was asked at the beginning of this section is about, how do we build a pool of people in Scotland who have the capabilities? And I think you've got to start in the schools, and then you've got to encourage much more social interaction. I mean, one of the things that people say, and it's not without foundation, is that people spend too much time in front of screens now.
Oh, tell me about it, Stephen.
Enough time speaking and listening. So we've got to try and create a higher level of social engagement, people interacting with other people, because that's how you learn the skills. I mean, you've mentioned that we get the spots knocked off us a bit as we grow older and have life experiences that set us back, but let's create opportunities for young people to develop their social skills.
Absolutely.
Through the education system and society in general.
It's a dying art, social skills nowadays, because of what you've just mentioned, technology. And how that will interfere with the selling process as well, because online selling, it's all becoming so dissociated from interpersonal relationships, and it's a passion of mine to really make people become more self-aware of themselves in front of others, and what they offer in a communication, selling, business, whatever role you may be. And
I don't know whether you agree with this, but I think because there's so much information, and because so much of the customer journey has been undertaken because of the information that's available on the internet, for example, that the need for a guide, for someone to open up the understanding of a customer to what this information might mean for them, has never been greater.
Absolutely.
So people that have got the skill to be able to communicate with people and to relate to people and sees themselves as additive in terms of value to a relationship, rather than trying to take something away from the customer, as an order. Got to get this order.
You've got
to
tick the box,
got to get
money.
This commission, as opposed to what can I do to help this person build their business, or make their process run more smoothly, or be more lean in the way they organize their business. That's absolutely got to be at the heart of what I believe will be the emergence of a higher level of commitment from education to sales. So I would like there to be more than 2 or 3 institutions that are offering degrees in sales. I think Napier are doing something with that, and Strathclyde have got an interest in this as well. But my dream is that one day there will be recognition of the professionalism of sales, that there will be degree programs in sales, there will be a commitment to continuous personal
growth
professional
and
development
yeah.
in sales, and that it will be seen for what it really is. It's the thing that makes the wheels of the economy turn.
Absolutely.
And if we're going to have any chance of bridging or closing the national productivity gap, it's going to have to be, that's all about making more of what we've already got. But we've got time and we've got our talent. We've got to make more of it. And I think if we do that in relation to sales, I can only see upside. I can't see downside.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Stephen's saying is fundamental because of the way children are now using technology and how they're communicating. You know, in the long term, not having what you're suggesting is potentially, I don't know where the next generation will be with regard to having human communication on a one-to-one and being able to be comfortable in that. Because I certainly know with my kids, they are great communicating with the people that were within their network online, and even when they meet them online. But if you take them outside that circle, their skills are lessened just because they're less comfortable in the environment, and that's all over.
Well, that links beautifully to what we'd like to talk about next, because really what we've seen is a number of callers have said, I've got this business and I would like to be able to promote my business into the public sector. So what we've got now is this concept of how can politics and government help business, but also selling. And you talk about being in the right field and feeling comfortable versus not. And a lot of the smaller and medium-sized businesses either have no experience at dealing with the public sector or have a lot of it, but it hasn't gone quite so well. There's not as many advocates of I'm currently selling in and it's a problem. So I guess what we thought we'd discuss was, how could a business take their products and services and package them in a way that works for the public sector, but whilst not losing what makes them special? Discuss, I guess.
Discuss. Well, first of all, let's highlight the importance of the public sector. I mean, that's at least half of our economy.
Yeah, is it? I thought it was more than half.
Well, it could be more than half. Yeah, I mean, I'm starting off at half.
Yeah,
it's huge.
It's huge. I
Scotland
think
or
it's
UK?
Scotland.
Oh no, Scotland. I think
Scotland's 70% or something.
I think in Scotland it is higher. It's higher in Scotland and the northeast of England, and it's higher in Northern Ireland. But for the UK as a whole, let's just say it's huge. It's at least 50%. Yeah. And the thing is that is an opportunity. Now, government at all levels have made a commitment. The UK government have, the Scottish government have, local authorities have. They have a commitment to increase the amount of money that they are spending as a total of their budget with SMEs. Now, is anything happening because of the targets? You're dying to tell me something.
Sipping my mouth here. Carry on. Carry on.
You acknowledge that the targets exist at least.
Yes, okay. Yes, the target. Well, I don't know because I'm not involved with the targets. I believe you that they are.
Targets.
Yes, okay.
There are targets. Every department in government has a target to increase the number of SME suppliers it has, given the amount of money it has to spend. The question is how to make it easier for SMEs to be able to take part in the process. Now, the problem at the minute is the processes are far too complex and far too demanding. The paperwork, if I may, you generically call the process the paperwork, is too intense, it is too demanding, it's too expensive. And for that reason, many SMEs look at what they'd have to go through, the fences they'd have to cross in order to be able to get a contract with any level of government, and they say, it's too intense.
So I can put life experience on that.
You can.
Shall I go for it? So where I'm coming from as a small business and having worked in public sector and now no longer at the moment working in public sector, when I first started, which was many years ago, the loops and hoops I had to go through were nominal, if any. I was taken on board on the value I could offer to Hansard, it was at the time, and where I could help them without going through any loops or hoops or bureaucracy. When I left, however, there were a number of new bodies involved, HR, procurement, and many
like
other.
You said that procurement.
Many other bodies, and the PPQs that you now have to fill in tend to eliminate most sole traders or small businesses immediately because of all the tick boxes, etc.
The complexities, the expense of it all.
Yes. So you've got the bigger boys who farm the tender out to tender companies, which I'm just gobsmacked about. They farm the tenders out. So in fact, it's the tender company, the professional, that fills in the document, then they win the tender. To me, that's completely ludicrous, because you're not in fact getting the information per se from the person you're going to be effectively employing to do the work. It's been farmed out. So my experience is that has not changed. Scottish Enterprise, I would say, at one point I had potential to do work there, but now the loops and hoops I would have to be involved in to fill in documents. But one of the things you were mentioning when we talked about this was the possibility of then consortium or collaboration with other organisations, not going down the avenue of changing the loops and hoops.
Yeah, that does bring us full circle to the thing that we started off talking about, which is about the relationship between politicians and public policy and small and medium-sized businesses. I mean, at the end of the day, politicians need to know about the real life, real world experiences that small businesses are having when it comes to attempting to engage with this huge public wallet. At the end of the day, these businesses are paying taxes. They're in, and it's the taxes that are basically the source of public spending. So, I mean, they should be able to have a fair, level, real chance to engage with the public sector.
Because I think we've talked quite a lot there about the red tape that's
involved
in the process. And of course, yes, that can be very laborious, but there's many other hurdles, isn't there? And I know that we've experienced, there's this concept of being a one-man band or one-woman band. And then there's also this trying to get in to this procurement body that maybe has targets to hit to engage smaller businesses. But I know through my experience that they might have the target, but it's really turning it into reality.
Yes, absolutely.
And I mean, I guess if a government organisation was to engage with 1,000 individuals, that comes with an overhead.
Yes.
But then again, it enables 1,000 businesses to make money, which then boosts the economy. Whereas dealing with one big third party. So I think in my world, that's the stationery suppliers. So that would be Lyrico. So if I want to sell my product into any government organisation or NHS, police,
any public sector, any large public sector,
even the Houses of Parliament themselves, everything stationary goes through the person that won the contract. In our case, that would be Lyrico. So suddenly now my business now has to sell to Lyrico, who doesn't really want to be dealing
Which is massively counterproductive, isn't it? I mean, if you've got a government policy that says that 25% of your spend is going to be spent with small and medium-sized businesses, and then you say, but in actual fact, that spend is going to go through this 1, 2, 3 big suppliers. Well, that's very, very, very counterproductive. And there is a public policy good that would come about by having to deal with more small businesses. So yeah, I think this is a really good example of real world business experience meeting or coming up against a policy objective where in actual fact the government has set out its stall in such a way to make it pretty hard, if not impossible, for small businesses to do business, to engage with them as a supplier.
But I think that's only got worse over the years with, I'm afraid, procurement. Because it's easier for procurement to deal with one body. So if they lay out their terms and their stall with that one particular supplier, then that's their job made easy. So that one person has filled the tender and has ticked all the boxes. Everybody else has to go through them, and it's a ridiculous, as far as I'm concerned, and Nicola, from what you've said, it just does not fulfill what the government wants with regard to encouraging more small businesses to be involved, and it's not allowing it.
So straight away, this conversation empowers me because of what you're sharing to go away and ask questions. I can ask written questions. I can ask oral questions in the House of Commons. I can ask questions in the Business Select Committee that I sit on about what in truth is happening in relation to engaging small and medium-sized businesses when it comes to public procurement. But I need to hear what my constituents' experiences are so that I can know what questions I need to ask. And then I will continue to persist. I think that's what the Speaker of the House of Commons often says, that the key to getting answers in Parliament is not to ask a question, it is to persist. And he makes a great point about using the word persist as often as he can.
I don't think we're in isolation, because I come across many people who struggle with procurement as a small business or a sole trader or whatever, an SME. The barrier that has now given small businesses is huge, up to the point where I now no longer do business with the public sector. I just don't go down that path anymore, because it's far too laborious for me to actually think about. Time consuming and laborious. I'm not going to go to an external person to fill in a PPQ or a tender document. So I just think, well, pointless, unless what we were talking about earlier, prior to discussing with you guys, is the consortium approach, or the collaboration consortium, because by bringing other people in to do a job, then maybe the 4 people rather than the 1 or 4 individual people, 4 people together have got the ability to have the buying strength, or the selling strength, if you like, to be able to fill in the document. But
that's a statement in itself, isn't it? The fact that an individual small business, a single trader, couldn't engage with the government procurement because they would be swallowed up by some other bigger entity. It needs to be changed. And you know, it's an agenda for change that we need to follow through on. Otherwise, we're going to end up consolidating. Because when I think about my experience of business in the last 30 years, it has been a one long story of consolidation of customers, customer groups through acquisitions, and consolidation of suppliers again through. Do we really want to end up with just a few big companies? Because I would have thought that was absolutely the antithesis of what we should all be trying to create in Scotland and in the UK as a whole. We should be encouraging small and medium-sized businesses, and to hear that someone who's got so much to offer, in your case, saying, I don't even bother looking at the public sector now. Think about the loss of entrepreneurial talent, flair, capability that the public sector now suffers from. I mean that sincerely. I think that's shocking. We need to change that.
Well, you know, I'm not going to go back on the experience, but my experience was I lost out to somebody else who probably tendered through a tender organisation. This was when I was working at the House of Commons, been there for many years. I lost out to that exact situation. As a sole trader, I was not going to be able to tick the boxes that somebody else who was a larger organisation, they would subcontract, bring people in to do what I was doing right enough. So the quality I would just suspect is different to what I might have given as an individual person, because what I wanted to do was give 100% of myself, because it's my business. So it's
well, the whole experience that subcontractors have in general is something that came to the fore during the inquiry that the Business Select Committee did on Carillion. And one of the issues that's related to this is the fact that when you are the subcontractor or a subcontractor, you're, in terms of your payments, you're also at the mercy of someone else that's not government. And therefore government can say, yes, we pay our bills on time, but what do your contractors do?
Well, that's like you with being the Lyrical being the person that's going to pay you. So the government might pay Lyrical within their period of whatever it is, 3 days to 2 weeks. But you might not get your payment for a month after that. So
it's the sale of return. So suddenly, any small business, you have to manufacture significant volumes to be able to cope with any public sector purchasing
and carry all the risk.
And then you carry all the risk rather than split. I believe it was for 2 years minimum.
Right.
Oh, there's much.
2 years sale or return. Wow. Yes. Well, that's.
Well, that's a really good example. Your personal example is a very good example of where we need to change the system. So but we can. Please engage with your politicians. Please engage with your members of parliament. These are the types of things that need to be changed and can be changed. We shouldn't think, oh, this is the way things are. This is the way things will always be. No. This is a democracy. We can change. We can change things in this country if we make the representations we should to our members of parliament.
So you've heard it from Stephen.
Yeah.
He's saying, get in touch with your MP. Any
Please
of the
do.
questions we've discussed, really put to him, and any additional questions or thoughts you might have about your growth or your sustainability. And we hope that our discussions this morning have been of value to you guys. And we look forward in the future to you phoning Nicola and myself with any continued corporate conundrums that you may have. Have you anything else to add, Nicola?
We'll put Stephen's hashtag at the end so you can check and contact him directly.
That would be fantastic. And can I also say it's been a pleasure to be with both of you. But special congratulations to Nicola, because she has just been named as Stirling University's Graduate of the Year. And well done you. You are excellent. Thank you.
Yeah,
well done.
You.
Yes.
Well, goodbye from her.
And it's goodbye from her.
And it's goodbye from us.
We'll see you soon. Thanks very much for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.